Long ago, in a time when the sky was closer to the earth, when the whispers of the wind carried the wisdom of the ancestors, and the rivers sang lullabies to the moon, there lived a girl unlike any other. Her name was Dika, born with a mind as sharp as the edge of a hunter's spear and a spirit as free as the open plains. Dika was no ordinary child. She was a girl who asked questions. Questions that made the elders pause, that made the wise men reconsider, and that even the spirits themselves found difficult to answer. In her village, the people respected the balance of nature. They knew that the sky ruled over the rain, the sun controlled the warmth, and the earth provided them with food. But when the sky, once generous and kind, became greedy and unforgiving, withholding rain until the fields cracked and the rivers shrank, fear spread across the land like wildfire. Crops withered, animals grew weak, and hunger crept into the hearts of the people. The villagers prayed, they sacrificed, they begged, but the sky would not listen. It loomed above them, distant and merciless. But Dika did not fear the sky. She did not beg or cry. Instead, she thought. She watched. She listened. And she devised a plan so clever, so daring, that no one before her had even imagined it. This is the tale of how a young girl, armed with nothing but her wit, outwitted the sky itself. A story of courage, intelligence, and the power of a single mind against an unstoppable force. Now listen closely, for Dika's story is about to unfold. The village of Dika lay nestled between rolling green hills and a vast shimmering river. The people here lived simple but joyful lives, planting their crops, fishing in the waters, and telling stories under the great baobab tree. Every morning, they would wake to the golden light of the sun, and every evening, they would sleep under a sky filled with stars. But everything changed when the sky grew greedy. At first, the sky gave rain when the people needed it, and the crops grew tall and strong. But over time, the sky became selfish. It decided that it no longer wanted to share its water freely. Instead, it demanded offerings, fruits, grains, and even livestock. If the village did not give enough, the sky would withhold the rain, leaving the fields dry and lifeless. The elders were worried. They did everything they could to please the sky. They placed baskets of food in the open fields, hoping the wind would carry their gifts upward. They sang songs of praise, hoping their voices would reach the heavens. But no matter what they did, the sky always wanted more. The people suffered. Crops died. Water dried up. Children cried from hunger. One night, as the village elders sat in silence, trying to think of a way to save their people, Dika spoke up. Why do we continue to feed the sky when it gives us nothing in return? She asked. The elders looked at her in surprise. The sky is powerful, one of them said. If we do not obey, we may never see rain again. Dika shook her head. I do not believe that. The sky needs us as much as we need it, and I will prove it. The villagers murmured among themselves. A mere girl challenging the sky? It seemed impossible, but something about the fire in Dika's eyes made them listen. That night, Dika devised a plan. She gathered her closest friends and whispered her idea to them. Their eyes widened in surprise, then excitement. If her plan worked, the sky would have no choice but to listen. And so, at dawn, Dika and her friends set out to challenge the sky itself. As the sun rose over the horizon, Dika stood at the edge of the village, her heart pounding like the steady beat of a drum. She had always been clever, but this was the greatest challenge she had ever faced. The sky was vast, untouchable, and powerful, yet she knew that even the strongest forces had weaknesses. She turned to her friends, 4 other children who had agreed to help. Kofi, the fastest runner in the village. Amma, whose knowledge of plants was unmatched. Yor, a boy with the strength of 2 men. And Nana, the quiet observer who saw things others missed. Each of them had a role to play in her plan. Dika led them to the heart of the fields, where the earth was cracked from drought. She knelt and dug her fingers into the soil, feeling its dryness. She closed her eyes and whispered a promise. We will not bow to the sky. We will remind it that we too are strong. She stood and looked up at the endless blue above. The sky has always taken from us, expecting us to obey. But what happens if we stop giving? She asked her friends. Kofi nodded. Without our crops, there is no food to rise into the air. Without our sweat, there is no life for it to watch over. Amma smiled. The sky thinks we need it, but perhaps it needs us just as much. Yor cracked his knuckles. Then let's teach it a lesson. Their plan was simple but bold. They would starve the sky. That evening, when the village gathered to leave offerings, Dika and their friends hid the baskets instead. They gathered every fruit, every grain, and every drop of water that was meant for the sky and stored it away in secret underground pits. Days passed. The sky, expecting its tribute, waited. But nothing came. The wind howled in confusion. The clouds thickened, then thinned, unsure of what to do. Still, the people continued their lives. They ate sparingly, making use of their hidden food stores, while the sky received nothing. Then, on the 7th day, something incredible happened. The sky roared with frustration. A deep, rolling thunder echoed across the land, shaking the trees and sending birds flying in panic. The people gasped, fear gripping their hearts. But Dika did not flinch. She stood in the open field, her arms crossed, staring at the sky. You are not our ruler, she shouted. You take from us, yet give nothing in return. But now, you have no choice. You need us, sky. And if you do not share your waters freely, we will never feed you again. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the clouds churned. A strong gust of wind rushed through the village. The elders held their breath. And then, the first drop fell. Then, another, and another. Within seconds, a great storm erupted, soaking the land with the rain they had long prayed for. The people ran into the fields, laughing and crying as the water touched their skin. The crops drank deeply, and the earth softened once more. Dika smiled, lifting her face to the sky. She had won. As the rain poured down, Dika stood tall in the field, her heart pounding with triumph. The sky had finally listened, but she knew this was not the end. She raised her voice above the storm. Do you see now, sky? You may be vast, but you are not beyond reason. You are not beyond balance. The wind swirled around her, and for the first time, it felt gentle, not angry, not demanding, just present. Then, a voice rumbled through the heavens, not like thunder, but something softer, deeper, almost thoughtful.
Child, you have dared to challenge me. You have refused my power, withheld my offerings. Why?
Dika took a deep breath, steadying herself.
Because power should not come from fear. You have taken and taken, believing we had no choice but to obey. But we are not weak, and we are not helpless. We give because we choose to, not because we must.
There was silence, save for the pattering of rain on the leaves. Then the sky spoke again. Dika tilted her head, a small smile forming on.
And what is it you ask of me?
A partnership. You need us, just as we need you. Without our offerings, you weaken. Without your rain, we suffer. If we are to survive together, then there must be balance.
The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of wet earth. The clouds, once thick and furious, began to lighten, allowing glimpses of the sun to peek through.
You are wise for one, so young.
Dika shrugged.
Wisdom does not come with age, but with understanding.
A soft rumble of amusement echoed from above.
Then we shall have an understanding.
At that moment, the rain softened into a gentle drizzle. The storm clouds, once towering and dark, now drifted peacefully, leaving behind the promise of renewal. Dika turned to her people, her soaked dress clinging to her skin, her face glowing with victory. She had outwitted the sky, not through force, but through reason, through courage, through the strength of her mind. As she walked back toward the village, Amma ran to her side. That was incredible. Kofi grinned. You just spoke to the sky. Like, actually spoke to it. You're ever the skeptic crossed his arms. And it actually listened. Nana, the quiet observer, simply smiled. Balance, she murmured. That is the key. Dika nodded, glancing up one last time. The sky was still there, still vast, still powerful. But now, it felt different. Not an enemy, not a master, but an equal. And from that day forward, the rain came when it was needed, and the people gave their offerings in gratitude, not fear. A new understanding had been formed, a pact between the earth and the heavens. The story of Dika teaches us a powerful lesson about wisdom, courage, and balance. She did not fight the sky with brute strength or anger. She used intelligence, strategy, and patience. This reminds us that true power lies not in domination, but in understanding. In many aspects of life, we face challenges that seem overwhelming, like Dika facing the mighty sky. Sometimes, it feels like the forces against us are too strong, too vast, too unchangeable. But this story teaches us that even the greatest obstacles can be reasoned with, negotiated, and balanced. One of the most important morals of this tale is empowerment through intellect. Dika's victory was not about defiance for the sake of rebellion. It was about creating harmony. She recognized that both her people and the sky needed each other, and she used that understanding to bring about a peaceful resolution. This is a valuable lesson in leadership and problem solving. The best leaders do not command through fear or brute force. They listen, understand, and find solutions that benefit everyone. Whether in our personal relationships, workplaces, or communities, the ability to communicate, negotiate, and find balance is an essential skill. Another key theme is resilience. Dika could have surrendered, accepted the suffering, and continued giving out of fear, but she refused to accept an unfair system. She stood up for what was right, even though she was just one girl against the vast, powerful sky. This is a lesson we can all apply in our lives. When faced with injustice, do we submit, Or do we seek solutions? When others try to take advantage of us, do we shrink back or do we stand firm with wisdom and strategy? The story also speaks to the idea that humanity and nature must exist in harmony. In many ancient traditions, people believed in a balance between the natural world and human society. When we respect nature, it provides for us. When we exploit it, we suffer the consequences. This idea is deeply relevant today. Climate change, deforestation, and environmental destruction remind us that when we try to dominate nature, instead of working with it, we create suffering for ourselves and future generations. Like Dika, we must find ways to restore balance between what we take and what we give. Lastly, this tale highlights the power of questioning traditions and systems that no longer serve us. Dika challenged a practice that had been followed for generations, not out of disrespect, but out of wisdom. She saw that fear was not the right foundation for a relationship with the sky, and she had the courage to ask, why? In our own lives, how often do we accept things just because they have always been done this way? How often do we fear change because we assume things cannot be different? Dika's story reminds us that change is possible, but only when we dare to think differently, speak up, and act wisely. In the end, the story of Dika and the sky is about more than just outwitting a powerful force. It is about using intelligence over brute force, standing up for what is right, seeking harmony instead of conflict, and having the courage to reshape the world for the better. Like Dika, we all have the power to change our circumstances, not through fear or rebellion alone, but through wisdom, strategy, and understanding. Dika's story is not just a tale from one community. It carries themes that appear across African folklore and even in global mythology. Many traditional African stories emphasize the importance of wisdom over strength, balance between nature and humanity, and the role of clever individuals who challenge unfair systems. In West African folklore, characters like Anansi, the spider from Ghanaian and Akan traditions, are famous for using intelligence and trickery to overcome more powerful beings. Like Dika, Anansi is small but clever, often outwitting gods, spirits, or other creatures. This shows how many African societies value intellect, problem solving, and the idea that even the seemingly powerless can triumph over great forces. Another parallel can be found in the Swahili tale of the hare and the lion, where a small, weak creature uses its mind rather than its strength to defeat a stronger opponent. Similarly, Dika does not fight the sky with force, but instead challenges the status quo with logic and wisdom. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe for more amazing African folk tales. Let me know in the comments what story you'd love to hear next. See you in the next video.